This is the Global News Podcast from the BBC World Service. I'm Emilio Sampedro, and in the early hours of Saturday, the 23rd of June, these are our main stories. President Trump threatens to impose further tariffs on the European Union, targeting car imports unless the EU backs down in a deepening trade dispute. Malta refuses to accept a German-run rescue ship with 234 migrants on board, a ship Italy had earlier accused of operating illegally in Libyan waters. Also in this podcast, the hardships faced by widows in Pakistan.
That time and this time is still the same. Nobody helps, not even your own brothers or sisters. No matter how hungry my children were, nobody gave us any food.
And a new railway is to link the small mountain kingdom of Nepal with China and India. That's all coming up. But first, President Trump has threatened to open up a new front in his trade dispute with the European Union. He says the United States will impose a 20% tariff on cars imported from the EU unless the bloc removes tariffs on American goods. Those tariffs are a response to similar charges placed by the U.S. on aluminium and steel. On the domestic front, Mr. Trump remains exercised by the controversial policy of splitting up migrant families. He gave a news conference earlier on Friday, surrounded by relatives of those alleged to be victims of crimes committed by undocumented migrants. I spoke about both developments to our Washington correspondent, Anthony Zerker. First, just how much a surprise to European leaders was the news of the latest U.S. tariffs?
He had warned the EU that if they went through with retaliatory tariffs, that he would reply with more of his own. So it seems like the tit for tat is growing and escalating. And you remember, this is more than just a one-front possible trade war. There's also a dispute ongoing with China with about $52 billion worth of U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods that are proposed to be in the works in just a couple of weeks, and China promising their own retaliation. So the United States could very quickly find itself in an escalating multi-front trade war.
Is there any sign that consumers or American workers are beginning to worry about this?
I don't know if the consumers are worrying about it yet. Usually you don't see any sort of reaction until they start feeling it in their pocketbooks. They start seeing rising prices in the stores or the markets or in car dealers. I think where you are starting to hear some grumbling is in the agricultural producers seeing their supply chains hit by the uncertainty of this and the tariffs that are starting to kick into effect. I read a media report of a soybean grower in Minnesota who was a Donald Trump supporter becoming increasingly disillusioned. He liked the idea of getting tough with other countries. He didn't like the idea that Chinese tariffs on soybeans could very well threaten his livelihood.
Now, as I